Hi guys, hello, welcome to my channel, and welcome to the first video of the year. And we are kicking off the year with one of my favorite videos to film, which is our TBR jar video. And I feel like I haven't actually used my TBR jar in a very long time. So I'm especially excited to do this video. And if you've never seen one of my TBR jar videos before, here is my TBR jar. I have several different colors of like prompts in the jar. Each one symbolizes like a different type of prompt. So we have the green ones, which are our regular prompts. Then we have the purple prompts, which are kind of like the active or like just more fun prompts, where I need to either go somewhere or I'm gonna need the assistance of either my phone, another person, one of my pets, something like that. And then we have our orange prompts, which I call like my bad prompts. They're not really bad, they're just kind of more challenging. And then last but not least, we have our blue prompts, which are actually not prompts. They're specific book titles of some of my oldest books on my TBR. This year, for 2025, I am really gonna be focusing on reading my physical TBR. I feel like I'm getting like dangerously close to having like 200 books on my physical TBR, and that is just insane. So I really wanna focus on reading my TBR, especially the ones that have been sitting on it for forever. Anyway, that's the TBR. Those are our prompts. Let's get started. Actually, before we get started, I do actually have a couple of books that I already know before going into January that are going to be on my TBR. The first one being Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in a series. The first book is called Clockwork Angel. I just finished that like a week ago, and I thought I had the second book already and I didn't, so I had to wait to continue the series. So I'm very, very excited now that I have it to jump back into that. And then I have two kind of like self-helpy type of books because 2025 is gonna be the year. It's gonna finally be my year. I really want to focus on like cultivating a much happier, more carefree kind of life. I feel like the last few years I've just been in a spiral of stress. For why? This one specifically, this one's called Women Living Deliciously by Florence Given. I started following her on Instagram, I think a few years ago. And since then, she has written a few different books. This one is the most recent one. I think it's basically a guide, if you will, but done through kind of like essays and things like that from the author's life. I think that's kind of the vibe of the first two books that she wrote. So I'm assuming this one's gonna be kind of the same, but I think this one has that kind of like extra element of self-helpy vibe. And she basically calls it living deliciously, which I think is the best way to describe the kind of life that I want. But also too, can we appreciate the look of this book? The actual hardcover itself has the images on it, which I love, but inside all of the pages are glossy, which is the one thing I kind of wish wasn't the case. I feel like this is going to be a book that I'm going to want to annotate, and I can't because it's glossy. But the positive of them being glossy is it does look really nice, and it has like lots of like pictures, and it's just really colorful and fun looking, so very excited. And then the other kind of like self-helpy book that I have is Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies. I have a hard time with self-help books sometimes because they feel kind of like repetitive to me and too woo-woo, I guess. I don't know if that's like the right term, but it just seems too like flowery, if that makes sense. So I like, just from the title, like the blunt kind of humorous tone. And I think this one is also done in kind of like a memoir-y style. Oh, also Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I pre-ordered that months and months and months ago. Anyway, let's go ahead, move on to finally picking some TBR prompts. All right, first pick, let's go for this one, who's kind of like wrapping around my finger. We have a green one. It says, oh, the glue did not hold, it folded over, hold on. A book with a number in the title. These are obviously not all of the books that I have on my TBR. These are just kind of a collection of ones specifically that I would be interested in reading right now. And none of them have numbers. Actually, just kidding, we do. We have Binding 13, and I'm pretty sure this is the only one. Oh no, we have this one too. Oh, and this one. Okay, just kidding. We have so many. First of all, we have Three Dark Crowns. This is one that I purchased a while ago, and the synopsis for this sounds so good, and I'm so surprised, honestly, that I haven't started it yet. I think the reason I haven't specifically is because it is part of a like 5-book series, and there's so many series I'm already in the middle of, so the idea of starting another one is kind of daunting. It's basically about a set of triplets that has to fight to the death until one of them is queen, which sounds so morbid, but also so good. I think there's like a competition element in it. We all know that is like one of my favorite things. And then we have the 1000th Floor, which is the hardest title in the world for me to say. And this one is basically about a group of individuals that all live in the same building, and I'm assuming that their lives kind of intertwine and things like that. So it sounds pretty interesting. And then last but not least, we have Binding 13. I, for the longest time, had no intention of reading this, but it's gotten to the point where I've just heard so many people talk about it, and like so many of the people that I follow personally have read and loved this series, so I finally caved and I got it. I'm a little nervous about it, honestly. I thought it was just like a sports romance, but because I did pick this up, I've been kind of paying attention to reviews a little bit more, and I think it's gonna have kind of more, not sad necessarily tones, but like heavier tones, and I don't know if I'm ready for that, to be honest. I am a little bit more interested in this one, and I also have had this one on my TBR a little bit longer, so I think I'm gonna do this one, although I am very curious about the hype on this. Also too, I just love how like super floppy this book is. Maybe we can put these ones here so you can see them a little bit better. I don't know how well you can actually see that, but anyway, prompt number 2. I don't know why I shuffle these every time I pull a prompt. Let's go with this one. Oh, another green one. Okay. This one says a book released within the last 3 months. Ooh, that's exciting. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research. I think this is one, but I'm gonna look these up on Amazon because I'm not 100% sure. This came out in October. I think that counts. So we're gonna add this one. Sky Shade, this one just came out, I'm pretty sure as well. I have like a really warped sense of time, so I'm checking to make sure, even though I'm pretty sure this like literally just came out. Why is it not telling me? Does it say the month inside the book? I know it says the year. No, it just says 2024. I'm pretty sure that this came out like within the last couple of months. So we're gonna include this one. And then the only other options that I have are not new books, but they're new editions of books. And these two I purchased at the same time as I purchased this one. So I'm pretty sure they all came out around the same time. So this is gonna be our little stack of choices. We have Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This is basically a poetry book. I like the idea of this because it'll be a nice like easier read, like something fun to just kind of like pick up throughout the month. But then we have the Zodiac Academy. I have honestly no idea what these are about. I just know that it has Zodiac in it, which I'm very much a believer in the Zodiac. I've got my Taurus necklace on, and also it says Academy, which to me signals school setting. Love a school setting. And then we have Full Moon Rising by Ruby Dixon. This book is just to die for aesthetically. And this one, given kind of like what is on the cover, I think this is a paranormal romance. And I've never read anything from Ruby Dixon aside from Ice Planet Barbarians, which is basically alien smut. So I'm really intrigued to see kind of like what her other writing style would be. It's kind of the same with like the romance aspect, but you know, something not smutty. I'm sure there's probably spice in here, but I think it'll have a different vibe a little bit. And I'm excited. Also intrigued by the fact that we have like a guy that is like a bull as well. How's that gonna work? Intrigued. And then last but not least, we have Sky Shade by Alex Astor. This is the 3rd book in the Light Lark series. I have been loving this series. Well, I loved the first book. The second book made me angry, but I'm very excited to continue the series, although I was very much looking forward to kind of like the conclusion of it, and the author just recently announced that there's going to be 2 more books in this series that are both going to be released this year. That being said, I think I'm actually going to skip out on this one, maybe wait until the next 2 books come out so that I can just blow through the entire series. Also, I think I'm going to go ahead and hold off on this one just because, again, it's another series. These books are actually pretty chunky, and there is 12 books in this series, so it's very, very large. So it's between these 2. I don't know. I kind of want to just pick them both because this is a poetry book, so I feel like it almost doesn't count. And especially too because a lot of her poems are like really teeny tiny. So I think we're just gonna do both of these because I really want to read both of them. 3rd prompt, let's do dig one from the bottom. Let's do let go. Let go. This one. Oh, we have another green one. Usually by now I've gotten like another color, but ooh, okay, this one says a fantasy novel, super easy. This is the perfect prompt for me right now because I have been very much in the fantasy mood. I grabbed a little bit of a stack. The first one being Apollyon by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the 4th book in the Covenant series. I started reading the Covenant series a few months ago, but then I kind of got distracted by other things. So I am excited to continue it, but I don't know if this is the one that I'm like the most excited for. So let's continue. We also have That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. I'm kind of thinking of this prompt as being like fantasy. And this one I feel like is probably more romance with an element of fantasy to it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if this one really counts, but I am really intrigued to read this because that title, I need to know what happens in this book. Then we also have Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I started Throne of Glass. I feel like early-ish last year, and I meant to just read it all the way through, but because I was vlogging the process of me reading the books, I'm very much a binger. So I just want to like sit down and just blow through a book. So having to kind of like stop and comment to a camera is very like unnatural for me, which is honestly one of the reasons why I don't do reading vlogs very often. But also I do a lot of my reading before bed. So I meant to just kind of take like a little bit of a break, like a week, maybe two. It has been months and months and months. So I do need to pick this series back up, and I do really want to pick the series back up. But I will say I am planning on tandem reading this one and I think it's called Tower of Dawn. I even made my own little like bookmark with like the chapter splits and everything. I'm very prepared for this tandem read, but I'm also kind of intimidated by it because these are chunky books. The other one is like the same size. That is like the one thing that keeps kind of like pushing this back and back and back. But at the same time, I do feel like I really need to finish this series. Also, I have had some comments from you guys being like, where's part 2? So although I am really excited about these other 2 books that I have, I think we just need to go with this one. But I will show you these ones too, just, you know, in case you're curious. We also have the book of Azriel. Azriel, I feel like I say that name weird. Like in my head it sounds right, but then when I say it out loud, it sounds wrong. Anyway, we have this one. Then also, last but certainly not least, we have The Phoenix Keeper. This one I'm really hoping I get a prompt to fit this one, and this is honestly the one I probably would have picked if this one also didn't qualify. First of all, it's about a zookeeper, which is like a dream job. There is some images in here with like normal animals, but then we also have a phoenix. So I think it's got like maybe a mix of regular animals and like mythological ones. Phoenixes too are also a specific mythological creature that I've always kind of been drawn to. I love the whole idea of like, you know, being reborn from your ashes and yada yada yada. So I'm really hoping we get a prompt that this fits for. Actually, what am I saying? Literally was telling my friend that gifted me this the other day that this is going to be like the first book that I read this year. So this is automatically already on our TBR. Maybe we'll just pick 5 prompts because we're already getting so many books. We have 3 over there, 3 over here, 2 more here. Let's pull 2 more prompts. So second to last one, let's do this one. We have another green one. Ooh. So this one, like already looking at the books before I even tell you what the prompt is. This one says a book with green on the cover. And we do have a few books with green on them. First of all, we have this one, which is probably like the most green. This is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires. I always want to call this the Lakefront Billionaires. I think that's her other one. And then we also, the reason I said ooh, we have Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. Oh no, this is the wrong book. This is the 4th book in this series, not the second one. I grabbed the wrong book, and that one is mostly blue, if I remember correctly, so never mind on this one. The only other one that has like a lot of green that I'm gonna count for this one is Pride and Prejudice, which this one is a special like illustrated edition. It's got lots of pictures in it, which I got in hopes that it would make the reading process more fun because I am not a classics girl, but I do really want to read this, especially because I just recently got Pride and Prejudice in Space, and I want to know the reference before I read that other book. So here's our choices. I was gonna say this one, but I'm honestly a little bit more intrigued by this one. And with it being the new year, this book just in general looks more fun. I think we're gonna do Pride and Prejudice. What a twist. I was not expecting that. Now, last but certainly not least, let's pick our 5th and final prompt. Let's try to get... We got another green one. I was gonna say let's try to not get another green one. Is that boring if I just keep getting whatever? We're just gonna go with what the jar says. Actually, I am gonna put this one back because one of the things that I really want to do, actually there's 2 things. Man, I am like all over the place. 2 goals that I have with these TBR jars. First of all, I definitely want to always at least pick 1 blue prompt so that I can kind of slowly pick off my oldest books. So I am gonna like specifically pick a blue one next, but also I have a little spinner wheel because I just recently re-signed up for Kindle Unlimited, and I want to make sure that I'm like getting my money's worth by actually reading books on my Kindle every month. So I made a special little like wheel with specific titles of books that I have on my Kindle Unlimited list. So we're gonna spin the wheel as well. But first, let's go ahead and pick our blue book. And we're gonna give this a little bit of a shuffle, and then I'm just gonna like grab the first blue one that I see. All right, this is the first one that caught my eye. Ooh, I don't know if I want to read that right now. This one is How to Be Eaten, and I got this specifically for October 2 years ago. Because I got it for like spooky season, I like am totally not in that vibe right now. But at the same time, I'm kind of like flipping through some of these other blue ones. And to be honest, none of these really are piquing my interest, which honestly is just proving my point of like why I needed to make these little blue prompts, because the longer a book sits on my TBR, the less likely I am to want to read it. You know what we're gonna do instead? There's another book that has been on my TBR even longer. I think at this point is actually the book that's been on my TBR the longest, and that is Guild. This is the first book in the Plated Prisoner series, which is a King Midas retelling. It's spicy. I've heard literally nothing but good things about this series and have not, for whatever reason, picked it up. This month, we're reading Guild, whether I like it or not. That being said, we're putting How to Be Eaten back in the jar for another day. Now all we have left is to spin our little Kindle Unlimited wheel. And don't mind the look of the wheel. This app that I use, Whirligig, I really like it because you can customize all the colors and everything. But if you go over a certain amount of things, it doesn't show you the entire wheel for some reason. It makes it like giant. So apologies for only having half a wheel to show you. Let's go ahead and spin it to see which Kindle Unlimited book we're gonna be reading this month. I'm hoping to read more than one, but I think that's supposed to say House of Lies and Sorrow, not House-Eyed Lies of Sorrow. And I have no idea what this book is about. Okay, it says it's a young adult arranged marriage fae fantasy. How is it young adult and arranged marriage at the same time? Jade Farrow will die tomorrow. Her fate was decided years ago when her useless father made a deal with the greedy fae king to save his own life. I have definitely read at least a couple other books with that same kind of setup. Which I love. Now she is being sent to marry one of 5 ruthless fae princes. The only problem is that she is not the first human to marry a fae prince. And like every human wife before her, Jade is going to be killed before she can find a way out. And then we have Malachi, who is the heir to the fae throne. It's the reason his brothers have despised him all these years, and it's the reason his father is adamant on finding him a human wife. I wonder why the fae are like so needing to have human wives. I feel like it's usually the other way around, where like a fae just happens to fall in love with a human and everyone's like, what are you doing, man? This is the opposite. Malachi has one job, and that is to unite the fae and human lands. Okay, I just needed to read one extra sentence. But Malachi has a secret, and it's one that gives him his rightful name amongst both the human and fae lands, the Prince of Shadows. I'm excited. I think that sounds good. Does it sound like the most groundbreaking concept in the world? No, but it's one that I love, so I'm excited. And with that, those are all of our prompts that we have picked, but let's go ahead and go over our giant stack of books again really quickly, in no particular order because I have now mixed these up on accident. We have The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean, Women Living Deliciously, and Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies, Clockwork Prince, Guild, Pride and Prejudice, Empire of Storms plus Tower of Dawn. This is so daunting. Milk and Honey and Bull Moon Rising, 3 Dark Crowns, and last but not least, our Kindle book, which is House of Lies and Sorrow. I'm equal parts very excited for my TBR, but also very, very intimidated and nervous. This is, I think, the chunkiest TBR I've ever built for myself. And it's kind of funny because I've been thinking more on my reading goal. And originally I was gonna do like 100 books, like 75 to 100. But then I was thinking this morning that maybe I wasn't gonna set a goal at all and just kind of stick to more of like, please don't fall. Stick to more of just like reading 2 to 3 books every week. And by doing that, if I do stick to it, I will be reading like 100 plus books. But I feel like putting it into more kind of like digestible little weekly chunks seems a lot more reasonable than saying like 100 right off the bat. Anyway, point being, we've gone from like trying to make my yearly goals seem less intense to this being my TBR stack for January. And we are missing a couple books from the stack. Like, that's crazy. Anyway, let me know in the comments some of the books that you're planning on reading to kick off the year. Let me know actually specifically the first book that you're gonna be reading. I'm curious what we're all gonna be kicking off our year with.